Imagine for a moment that there's a segment of history that's been overlooked. Ancient writings containing captivating revelations about angels, giants, and divine judgments have been simply forgotten or intentionally omitted. But why? Could there be something so profound in them that it might alter our perception of spirituality and Christianity itself? Today, we will delve into one of the greatest mysteries of religious history, the exclusion of the Ethiopian Bible and the enigmatic Book of Enoch from the traditional biblical canon. What do these texts contain that made them so controversial? More importantly, what are we missing by not exploring them? You'll discover how the Ethiopian Bible preserved secrets that the West never included, and how the Book of Enoch unveils narratives that might almost seem like science fiction. Texts that discuss fallen angels, ancient civilizations, and divine messages that, for many, should have been concealed. What is the Ethiopian Bible? The Ethiopian Bible is unlike anything you've heard about sacred texts. While most Christian Bibles contain between 60 and 70 books, depending on the tradition, the Ethiopian version boasts an impressive 82 books. That's right. It's almost as if it serves as an expanded library of the Christian faith. But what makes it so special? For starters, it preserves books considered apocryphal and pseudepigraphal, meaning texts not included in the Western Bible, but still deeply respected by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Among them are the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the mysterious Apocalypse of Peter. These works explore themes such as the origin of evil, the role of angels, and even detailed visions of the end times. The history of the Ethiopian Bible begins in the Ge'ez language, an ancient liturgical language of Ethiopia. Translated in the 5th century, it became accessible to the Ethiopian people in their own language long before other Christian cultures had the opportunity to do the same. This helped build a unique spiritual identity for Ethiopia, one of the first countries in the world to officially adopt Christianity, back in the 4th century. Moreover, the Ethiopian Bible reflects a rich and resilient historical legacy. For centuries, while other Christian nations were connected through Rome or Constantinople, Ethiopia remained relatively isolated. This independence allowed its traditions to remain intact, but also distanced it from the processes that defined the biblical canon in the West. And why does this matter? Because while much of the Christian world followed a consolidated narrative, the Ethiopian Bible preserved alternative and often more detailed views on spiritual themes. It offers us a glimpse of how Christianity was viewed in its original diversity before the official decisions that shaped the global faith as we know it today. The Book of Enoch. What does it reveal? The Book of Enoch is one of the most intriguing and controversial texts in religious history. It begins with a fascinating premise. Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, is taken to heaven and receives visions about the past, present, and future of the universe. But what does he see? Revelations so profound that the Book of Enoch was deemed too dangerous to be integrated into the official biblical canon. One of the most notable parts of the text is the narrative about the fallen angels, known as the Watchers. These angels allegedly descended to earth and fell in love with human women, producing a hybrid offspring called the Nephilim. According to the text, these giants were responsible for spreading evil and corruption in the world, leading to the divine decision to cause the flood. This story not only provides a more detailed context for original sin, but also questions the dynamics between the divine and the human. Additionally, the Book of Enoch richly describes the workings of the cosmos, the nature of the heavens, and even the final judgment. It's as if it serves as a celestial guide, attempting to explain the divine order that governs the universe. In one of its most cited passages, it speaks of a place reserved for the righteous and the condemned, presenting concepts of the afterlife that would later directly influence the New Testament. But why was it excluded from the biblical canon? The answer lies in how the Book of Enoch challenges theological consensus. During the early centuries of Christianity, significant councils decided which texts would be included in the Bible. The Book of Enoch was discarded due to uncertain authorship and its content often conflicting with the Christian doctrines being consolidated. Interestingly, there is a notable exception. The Book of Jude in the New Testament directly cites a passage from the Book of Enoch, recognizing its importance among early Christians. This raises a fascinating question. If it was so influential, why was it set aside? Today, scholars and enthusiasts turn to the Book of Enoch to understand what it can tell us about the origins of the Christian faith and beliefs about the supernatural. It's a work that, even outside the canon, continues to spark debates, inspire theories, and invite reflection on what it means to comprehend the divine. The formation process of the biblical canon. To understand why texts like the Book of Enoch and parts of the Ethiopian Bible were excluded from the canon, it's essential to comprehend how the Bible, as we know it today, was formed. This process, involving centuries of debates, councils, and rigorous criteria, is as fascinating as the texts themselves that were left out. In the first centuries following Jesus' life, Christian communities were spread across various regions, each with its own sacred texts. Gospels, apostolic letters, psalms, and prophecies circulated on scrolls, but there was no consensus on which books were genuinely inspired by God. In this context, the Church began to face a challenge: how to unify the faith into a defined set of scriptures. The initial steps toward forming the canon occurred during major ecumenical councils, such as those of Nicaea, 325 AD, and Constantinople, 380 AD. These gatherings brought together religious leaders from different regions to discuss doctrines and practices. Although the primary focus wasn't defining the canon, these meetings laid the foundation for later decisions. But how were the texts chosen? Three main criteria guided the selection. Apostolic authorship. The texts needed to be written by apostles or individuals close to them, ensuring a direct connection to Jesus and his teachings. Theological consistency. The books had to align with the Christian doctrine being consolidated. Texts with ideas considered heretical or controversial were discarded. Liturgical use. Only writings widely used in churches and deemed edifying for the community's faith were included. By these criteria, texts like the Book of Enoch and others present in the Ethiopian Bible faced challenges. Although the Book of Enoch was popular in certain Jewish and Christian communities, its authorship was attributed to Enoch, a figure from the Old Testament, making it difficult to justify its inclusion based on the apostolic criterion. Additionally, stories of fallen angels and Nephilim didn't entirely align with the dominant Christian theology. Other texts, such as apocryphal and pseudepigraphal gospels, were also excluded. This doesn't mean these writings were less valuable, but they didn't meet the criteria the Church deemed essential to preserve the unity of faith. Interestingly, the Ethiopian Bible, which includes omitted books, represents a tradition that followed a different path. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, isolated from Western influences for centuries, maintained a broader collection of texts, preserving works that other Christian traditions abandoned. The process of forming the biblical canon reminds us that the history of faith is filled with human choices, intense debates, and often mysteries. It invites us to reflect on how what we read and believe was shaped by decisions made centuries ago, and how that influences our view of the divine today. Cultural and linguistic reasons for the banning. Beyond theological and doctrinal criteria, cultural, historical, and linguistic factors contributed to the banning of texts like the Book of Enoch and the uniqueness of the Ethiopian Bible compared to the Western canon. These reasons go beyond matters of faith and reveal the complexities of the contexts in which these decisions were made. Language barrier. One of the most significant factors for the isolation of texts in the Ethiopian Bible was the Ge'ez language. an ancient liturgical language used by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. While the more widely accepted Christian scriptures were translated into Greek, Latin, and later European languages, Ge'ez remained unknown to much of the Christian world. This linguistic barrier hindered the dissemination of texts preserved in the Ethiopian tradition. The Book of Enoch, for example, survived complete only in Ge'ez. Although fragments were found in Aramaic among the Dead Sea Scrolls, the complete text was largely ignored by Western churches, which considered the Ethiopian language inaccessible and irrelevant to their theological contexts. Geographical and cultural isolation. Another crucial reason was Ethiopia's historical isolation. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest Christian traditions, developed independently after the Council of Chalcedon, 450 AD, which caused schisms in Christianity. This geographical and cultural distancing allowed Ethiopia to preserve texts and practices that European Christianity not only abandoned, but often remained unaware of. While Europe underwent theological and political changes, such as the Protestant Reformation, Ethiopia remained firmly rooted in its unique traditions, including its expanded biblical canon. This helped protect texts like the Book of Enoch, but also isolated them from the global Christian discourse. The printing revolution and Western influence. With Gutenberg's invention of the printing press in the 15th century, the Bible began to be widely reproduced in the West, especially in forms like the Latin Vulgate, and later the King James Version. These texts solidified a specific canon aligned with Western Council's decisions. Works outside this scope, such as those in the Ethiopian tradition, became increasingly marginalized. Furthermore, the spread of European Christianity worldwide through missions and colonialism reinforced the dominance of the Western canon. This created a perception that the Western Bible was the only legitimate one, while other traditions were viewed as exotic or secondary. Prejudice against apocryphal and pseudepigraphal texts. The very nature of texts like the Book of Enoch, classified as apocryphal or pseudepigraphal, also contributed to their neglect. In the West, these terms often carried negative connotations, leading to the idea that these writings were inferior or even heretical. This perception didn't acknowledge the historical, cultural, and spiritual value these texts held in contexts like Ethiopia. These cultural and linguistic reasons show that the banning of certain texts wasn't just a theological matter, but also a reflection of historical and social circumstances. In an increasingly interconnected world, revisiting these works is an opportunity to break down barriers and rediscover a rich spiritual heritage that transcends borders and languages. The importance of the Book of Enoch and the Ethiopian Bible today. Although these texts were forgotten or deliberately excluded in the past, the Book of Enoch and the Ethiopian Bible are gaining renewed interest in modern times. They offer a unique perspective on spirituality, history, and the mysteries of Christianity, enriching our understanding of the faith's origins and diversities. A treasure for theological and historical studies. Contemporary researchers have rediscovered the value of these texts as historical and theological sources. The Book of Enoch, for instance, is essential for understanding the cultural and spiritual context of early Judaism and Christianity. It reveals a complex view of the cosmos, the role of angels, and the origin of evil, elements that influenced both apocalyptic literature and early theological thought. The Ethiopian Bible, with its expanded canon, also serves as a window into traditions and teachings that were suppressed or forgotten. Studying it allows exploration of a Christianity that developed independently of the Western world, preserving practices and beliefs dating back to the early centuries of the Christian era. A new spiritual perspective. For many, the Book of Enoch is a source of spiritual inspiration. It tackles profound questions about humanity's fate, divine justice, and the role of celestial beings. Its narrative on fallen angels, human corruption, and the final judgment offers a unique interpretation of the conflict between good and evil, resonating with those seeking answers to moral and spiritual dilemmas. Similarly, the Ethiopian Bible, with its additional texts, provides a broader view of spirituality. By including books like Jubilees and the Ethiopian Book of Maccabees, it expands the understanding of sacred history and the relationship between God and humanity. Impact on eschatology and cosmology. The Book of Enoch's contributions to the study of eschatology, the doctrine concerning the last events in history, are particularly noteworthy. It offers detailed descriptions of the final judgment, the resurrection of the dead, and the renewal of creation, topics that directly influence the Book of Revelation and other biblical texts. Additionally, its unique cosmology, describing the universe's workings and the role of celestial forces, fascinates scholars and enthusiasts alike. These ideas challenge and complement traditional views, encouraging deep reflections on humanity's place in the cosmos. Cultural and intellectual relevance. In today's globalized world, rediscovering these texts helps broaden the understanding of diverse Christian traditions. They serve as powerful reminders that spirituality is not monolithic, and that faith can manifest differently across various historical and cultural contexts. Moreover, the preservation of these texts by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is a testament to a people's cultural and spiritual resilience. Studying them also means recognizing and celebrating this rich heritage. Returning to the initial question, have we lost something important by neglecting the Book of Enoch and the Ethiopian Bible? The answer seems to be a resounding yes. These texts, long forgotten or deliberately excluded, not only challenge the dominant narratives of the Christian faith, but also offer a spiritual and intellectual richness that continues to fascinate people worldwide. An invitation to curiosity and investigation. What's at stake here isn't just a matter of theology or history, but an invitation to explore a richer, more diverse, and perhaps more mysterious Christianity. The existence of texts like the Book of Enoch and the Ethiopian Bible reminds us that faith is not static, but a living field of discoveries, debates, and growth. Whether you're religious or merely curious, studying these texts can open new horizons. They challenge us to question what we consider official or authentic, and to reflect on how power, politics, and culture have shaped the religious traditions we know today. The importance of diversity in spiritual traditions. More than ever, we live in a world that needs to embrace diversity. Rediscovering texts like these is an opportunity to celebrate not only the unity of the Christian faith, but also its many facets and voices. Each tradition, each text, contributes to a spiritual mosaic that can enrich our understanding of the divine and ourselves. An endless journey, just as the Book of Enoch describes a continuous quest for wisdom and justice. Studying these works is a journey that never ends. There's always more to learn, more to question, and more to contemplate. These texts remind us that spirituality isn't a ready-made answer, but an eternal search. As we conclude this reflection, let me ask you, what if, by exploring these forbidden texts, you find answers to questions you didn't even know you had? What if, by diving into this journey, you discover a new way to see the world, the divine, and yourself? The Ethiopian Bible and the Book of Enoch invite us to this exploration. They challenge us to step out of our spiritual comfort zones, question what we know, and open our hearts and minds to new possibilities. After all, perhaps the greatest mystery of faith isn't what we know, but what we are yet destined to discover. If you've made it this far, it's because curiosity has brought you on an incredible journey of discovery. So, how about continuing to explore together? Subscribe now to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any content like this. Here, we're always uncovering mysteries, stories, and curiosities that enrich our view of the world and spirituality. Oh, and don't forget to leave your like if you enjoyed this video, and share it with someone who also loves to learn something new. Your participation is essential for us to grow and bring more amazing content to you. Thank you so much for staying until the end. You are the reason this work is done with so much care and dedication. Until the next video.